Hey guys, dinner's done. Had the steak and, excuse me, broccoli. Pretty sure I probably went over my calories. Their steak's a hell of a lot bigger than I expected it to be. I was expecting a 6-ounce steak. That thing was huge. And I don't know let it go waste, so I ate it. So I'm probably over my calorie count for the day, but it's pure protein. So, you know, no starches or sugar, so I should still be in ketosis, but I definitely probably ate more calories than I should have. That's alright. I tried to find out, because, you know, you're going to use my FitnessPal to pull up Sonny's, you know, steak. Not on there. That's the first time I've ever found something that wasn't in their databases already. They have, I mean, they have everything from Sonny's sweet tea to their banana pudding to the broccoli and everything else, but the steak itself not on the database. Unusual. So I'll go home and I'll hit the interwebs, check it out, have a gander, have a peek, figure out what their steak is calorie wise, so I'll know what I ate, because you know, gotta count that shit. Just have to do more exercise in the morning. Tomorrow's my first full hour of exercise. Wow, that guy's speeding his ass off. That's just stupid. How wet this road is. Yeah, heading home. Still tired. Didn't feel like, you know, I had Dawn as my waitress, and she's one of the waitresses that we know well. She's a good friend, and I never go in there without giving her absolute hell every chance I get. Tonight, I just, you know, I just didn't feel like giving her hell, and I was, you know, I was friendly and I joked a little bit, but normally I just give her absolute hell over there, and I'm just tuckered out. I decided to change lanes into my lane, and no turn signal or nothing. I missed my front bumper by maybe 3 feet. And now he uses his blinker. Changing back, there's nobody over there, but he uses his blinker there. So don't signal the guy you cut off, but signal the nobody that's over there. Silly. Roll up. Yeah, heading home. Yeah, you get that way once in a while, you just get bleh. Or you're not, you know, you're not sick, or you're not really even tired, you're just magoo, you're just like bleh. Like, whatever. Whatever, man. It's alright. Go home, get me showered, get myself showered up. Maybe I might just go ahead and stretch out in bed. Pull my laptop out. God, I ain't pulled my laptop out forever. Ever since I got the freaking iPad, I never used my laptop anymore. I gotta find a book about witches for the book club for October. Maybe fiction, non-fiction, all that stuff. I've read a bunch of books about the Salem witch trials and the witches and you know, the New England and all that. It was an interesting topic to read. I'll be honest with you, I'm looking, you know, we always read these historical dramas. We read these, you know, very deep, very dry stories. But that's not why I read. If I want to read to learn something, then I read to learn something. But I usually read, you know, that's my escape mechanism. You know, I read to live vicariously through somebody else's life, to get a good story, to, you know, invest in a character and be like, wow, you know, and all that. You know, some of these books we've read have just been bleh. You know, and the book I'm reading it, you know, like we did Crime and Punishment by, you know, Dostoevsky, or just I can't even say his name. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I couldn't. It's the first time I haven't finished a book, and I still haven't finished it. Still have not finished that damn book. I will. It's a matter of principle. But it's so horribly contrived in the way it's written, which I understand better now why, you know, it feels that way, because the book wasn't written for us. It wasn't written for me. It was written to be read by other Russians in that time frame. When he wrote the book, he never thought about the fact that in 50 years it might be being read by some, you know, complete stranger across the ocean living in the life of Riley compared to how he lived. So when he talks about things that have happened in Russian history, he doesn't expand on them because he assumes the person reading it knows because they're Russian. So I can't fault the book in the way it's written. It just wasn't written for our generation. But, you know, some of the other ones we've read, The Three Junes, The Paris Wife, it's very morose, very depressing reads. No, I'm just not into that. I don't read for drama. I read for entertainment. Freaking ass. So, you know, it gets a little, it's just, you know, it gets a little out there for me. For somebody who reads for the sheer enjoyment, entertainment value, to read a book that's so dry and the characters I just can't invest in. I don't care what happens to them, and that's, you know, and I hate to say that because it sounds so self-centered or so, you know, I don't know what it just sounds bad. But I can't, you know, even in my fiction books that I read, you know, I like reading books that have the same, you know, the same protagonist in each book. As long as they're well written. Like I read Clive Cussler, his Dirk Pitt series. I love reading that because I can invest in that person invest in that character as a person. I like what he stands for, and I like what he represents, and I like the way he does things because it's, quite honestly, the way I do things. So I can be invested in that. I read J.D. Robb, of all things, which I didn't know at the time, but I found out a little while ago that J.D. Robb is actually Nora Roberts. It's her pseudonym, her, you know, pen name, which made me laugh because Nora Roberts is a smut novel writer. You know, the love and sex books. It's all, you know, that kind of thing. That's what she writes. But as J.D. Robb, she writes these amazing future cop dramas that have a love and romance aspect. You know, there's a love and romance, and the love scenes and the sex scenes can be fairly graphic on occasion, but in a way that, you know, it's not vulgar graphic. I don't know how to explain it, but it's very well written, very well thought out, and, you know, it pulls forth and displays the emotions of the lovemaking and not the act of the lovemaking. He doesn't describe them having sex, he truly describes them making love. And that's awesome. You know, I'm one that appreciates that. But anyway, so I'm trying to find the whole point of that whole diatribe there was I'm looking for a fiction book. You know, everybody's going to pick up, you know, some Salem witch trial book or some story of something like that, and screw that shit. I want a fiction story. I want something witches and warlocks and magic flinging, and, you know, I want something different, something that they're not going to read. Because quite frankly, some of my book club friends are kind of uppity. Not all of them. A lot of them are just really great, down-to-earth people. I mean, most of them are, actually. There's one or two people that are kind of literary snobs. You know, I mentioned that I read Clive Cussler, and they're like, oh, you know, really? And I'm like, yeah, I quite enjoy it, actually. Or I mentioned that I read, P&L Rod. I read, just, you know, fiction. I read fantasy. I read adventure, because that's what I like. And some of them kind of look at me sideways, like, really? I'm like, yeah. Because, you know, I guess some people feel literature is supposed to be a book that makes you think and makes you, you know, really have to work to read it. Nah, screw that shit. I read for enjoyment. I read for the pleasure of it. I love reading a good, solid book. You know, I've read War and Peace. I've read Lonesome Dove, great book. You know, I've read the entire Lord of the Rings series. I've read all of that stuff because it interested me. I mean, the size of the book or the depth of the book doesn't bother me. You know, Tale of Two Cities, love that. The Canterbury Tales, I mean, I like a lot of the classic authors, but that's not all, you know, all I'm going to read. I'm going to read, I love going to the used bookstores and just picking up a book out of the discount bin, out of the, it's $1, come get it bin. And I was just eating dinner, I was on the Kindle, and I was going through, I searched the word witch and witches. And there was a bunch of books that were free. And they were like 60 pages long. And I read two of them while I was there. And they were really interesting storylines. They were good plots. You know, about just about a fantasy witch living in today's world. And witch hunters and all that silly stuff. But it was a very good book. It was not plausible, you know, but I enjoyed it for being what it was. And it didn't take itself too seriously, and I appreciate that. You know, I'm not a big vampire fan. I won't, you know, it's not my thing, really, but there's a couple of vampire books out there that I really got into. I really enjoyed because of the different point of view. They're not all the Blade vampires, the cool, hipster, sexy people are all vampires, and they're all evil and all that shit. And, you know, it's not the Interview with the Vampire, frilly gay vampires, and sure as hell ain't Twilight. So, you know, it's I like the books where it's a realistic person who's either been turned against their will or turned without realizing what it was or even what they've been turned into. A couple of them out there, Jonathan Barrett, A Gentleman Vampire, was excellent. And I'm reading the Vampire Moon. Actually, I finished the Vampire Moon series, and they're as much as I liked the books and I liked the storyline behind them. The books were horribly written. I won't say horribly, but they were written in a way that the plot, there was no flow. It was here to here to here to here. The author hasn't quite found their niche yet. They haven't got their legs in yet where they can say, she's basically, in one paragraph, she's telling the story. Whereas some authors have, you know, most authors have gotten into the flow of it where instead of that one paragraph, it's a whole page. And it's filled with, you know, the imagery and the description and emotion and all that stuff, and you know, it just makes the book. It's just filler, but it can really change. It can really make a book a better read. Because there's nothing worse than finding a book that you really like and you're really invested in to have it end so quickly that you're like, oh, you know, now what? So yeah, the Vampire Moon series is interesting because it's a woman who was turned against her will and is just trying to cope with it. You know, she's a mother. You know, has 2 kids, and as a vampire, she's blacked out the windows in her SUV, and she wears a big hat and sunscreen and gloves and long sleeves so she can drive her kids to school. Because she's a mother. To her, she will always be a mother first, not a vampire. So that was pretty, you know, that's a pretty cool story, and how she drops them off, and then she goes and, you know, passes out in her little vampire stupor, but forces herself awake before she normally would be while it's still daylight so she can go pick her kids up. So it's a cool story because it's a totally different view on the vampire thing that's always, you know, vampires are always these cool hipster kind of people, and, you know, and they are what they are, and she's totally the opposite. She's just an everyday person just trying to make ends meet and trying to, you know, work and support her family and still be a mom to these kids even though she's been turned. That's what makes it an awesome story, because it's a totally different point of view. And I think she'll go somewhere with it. She has some excellent story ideas. She's not putting them out there quite as good as she could. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough about books. But the whole point of that was, again, you know, went on a freaking monologue, was I'm looking for a fiction style book. I want something lighthearted, frivolous, and completely pointless. Because I want to take that to the book club and explain it to them in a way that makes them want to read it. And I could do that. I've got the gift of gab. I got the touch. So I can get this completely pointless novel about some kind of modern witch or something of that nature and make it sound appealing to them, where some of the literary snobs will end up reading it. They may never admit it, probably never admit it, but they'll still have read it, and that makes me happy. You know, they've expanded my horizons on literature. They really have. I've found some authors that I really enjoyed through them. I just want to do the same. You know, help them come to terms with the fact that not every book has to make you a better person because you've read it. You don't have to expand as a human being because you read this book. Some books are just books for entertainment value. They're there to be read so you can enjoy that life for a little while outside of your own. The whole point of books is for you to be able to live vicariously through somebody else. That's why people read adventure books and read pirate stories, and why Pirates of the Caribbean was so bloody popular, because everybody wanted to live vicariously through Jack Sparrow. You know, they wanted to be, You know, that's the whole point of entertainment, is to let you have a little taste of what you may never experience, because we all got jobs. We all got to go home, go to work, earn a living, you know, survive. So we lose some of that luster, but it's all good. But anyway, I'm gonna find me a fictional witch story that has no purpose, no meaning, and no depth to it, and I'm gonna read it, and I'll enjoy it, and I'm gonna sell it to them. I'm gonna just mentally just have at them and make them want to read this book. I'll find a way. But anyway, so anyways, like I said, day 29, evening, getting dark, rainy. Sinuses are acting up again. Freaking rain came back. Freaking rain. But anyway, just it's been a good day. It's been a good evening. I'm gonna go and enjoy it. Have a good time. Everybody, love you guys. Bye.